Welcome to my channel. I hope you're all doing well. My name is Kat, like the cat and the girl from Victorious, but actually with a K. So I'm not a feline, I'm a human. Wow, that was a great introduction. Thank you for still being here, although I keep talking about cats. So since uni has closed down, I do have quite a lot of time on my hands. And I thought, why not film this video about my experience as a postgraduate applicant at a UK university, or actually 3 UK universities. I know that this video is very different from the stuff I used to do way back in the day, and English is not my first language, so excuse any mistakes I make. I'm very sorry if I butcher your language. I just thought that most international students are probably not able to speak German or understand German. It would be more useful if I did this video in English. When I was looking up videos like this before I applied, I actually did not find a lot of them, especially not from EU or international students. So I thought, why not film this video and share my experience to actually help one or the other of you out. Little disclaimer, I'm obviously not an expert on application processes. I'm just here to share my experience and give you a bit of an idea how this process actually goes down. Just a little bit about me. I currently study food science and biotechnology at the University of Natural Resources and Life Sciences in Vienna. And I'm almost done. I just have one exam left, which will be online. Very interesting. So I decided in like 2018 that I actually wanted to do my master's degree in London. And now that I have matured into a serious adult and scientist, as you can see, I have applied to Imperial College, University College and King's College London. I actually got offers from all 3 of them, which I did not think would happen, but here we are. And I actually accepted the offer from UCL for the Master of Research in Organic Chemistry and Drug Discovery. So I'm going to start in September, hopefully, if this whole pandemic thing doesn't ruin it. Yeah, we'll see. So I'll structure this whole thing here into 3 parts: the pre-application part, the application and post-application. So let's start with the pre-application part. As you can imagine, I already mentioned that I started my whole process in 2018, so 2 years prior to me actually starting the degree. I think it's quite useful if you start planning early. There's a lot to figure out. You don't know the educational system of this country, most of the time, at least. I didn't know it. I had no clue. I did not know how the grading system worked or anything, so every other system is very different to that from Austria, because it seems like we're actually just not giving a shit about grades, and yeah, we just don't care, it seems. What did I actually want to say? Oh yeah, so I do actually think that it's very useful if you start planning early and you have enough time to figure everything out, how it works, to find accommodation and everything. There's just a lot of stuff you have to, you know, factor in and be aware of. So naturally, you first have to find a degree that you actually want to do. For me, there were quite a lot of things that I was considering doing, because I was only in my 2nd year of my bachelor's studies, so I hadn't done that much stuff. I would definitely recommend doing internships and practical courses to figure out which field you actually want to do, and figure out if you actually like what you're interested in, if it comes to actual working. Every university normally offers you course lists for their available courses, so you can just scroll through and browse a bit. You can look at the curricula and the structure of a course. It just gives you a really nice overview of all the available courses. If you already know where you want to study, like me for example, I already knew 100% that I wanted to go to London. I even get it tattooed on my arm here. Is that in focus? Oh, looks crooked. So if you're not as obsessed with a city like me and you don't know 100% yet where you actually want to go, there are websites online where you actually can type in the degree you want to do, and it will give you loads of universities that actually offer this degree. I will link this one down below so you can just, you know, look it up and see for yourself. If you then find a location where you actually want to go, you can look at the universities that offer these courses to further, you know, just... And also don't shy away to actually look up the staff's research of the university and department you want to apply to. I, for example, read several papers from professors from the departments I was interested in, so I could actually get an idea what they're actually doing, because as I'm doing a master's of research, research is quite a big part in my degree, and I don't want to end up at a university where I'm not actually interested in the research they're doing. So look it up, read some papers. Speaking of the Master of Research, you should also figure out which degree type you want to do in the end. If you want to do a more research-based degree like a Master of Research, or if you want to do more theoretical stuff in a Master of Science. I don't know the degree types for business and law and stuff, but yeah, there are also other different ones. I don't know. Never really thought about it. Not interested in business. If you've then found a course that you're interested in and that you want to apply for, don't forget to check the price tag. You know, everything has a price. So I know it might seem a bit off-putting at first, especially if you're coming from a country like Austria where you don't actually have to pay for your education. However, I see this as an investment in my future, so I'm more than happy to pay for it, or my family is very happy to pay for it, or at least I think they are. So keep that in mind, and if you start planning early, you have enough time to save up some money, to apply to scholarships and not to miss deadlines, and to just figure out a way how to finance your degree. Another thing you obviously have to take into account are the entry requirements. Every university gives you a specific grade average they want you to have in order to get into the university and into the degree you are applying for. I, for example, had an Excel sheet where I just calculated all of the grades I had, so I just had an overview if I would meet these entry requirements, or if I had to do better in my studies, better in my exams, or if I could just, you know, relax. Application process. After you've researched and you've planned and you're heading towards the end of your bachelor's degree or whatever degree you're doing right now, you can think about the application process and start applying, which is so much fun. To apply to UK university, you have to have 2 academic references, an official transcript from your university, an English certificate if you're not a native speaker, as well as a personal statement. Wow, that just sounded as if I wanted to sell you something. I'm not selling you anything, just my knowledge. The more you know. Let's start with the references first. I do think it's quite beneficial if your references are actually relevant to the course you're applying to, which now that I'm saying it sounds kind of obvious, but I just wanted to put it out there, you know? I, for example, did my bachelor's thesis on organic chemistry and organic synthesis, and I therefore asked my 2 supervisors if they would be my referees. One of my supervisors was actually the head of Institute of Organic Chemistry, as well as the deputy of the Department of Chemistry. He was also my professor of organic chemistry and is working on HIV research. As the courses I applied to were actually all focused on drug discovery and development, and the one from UCL even more on organic chemistry, I thought that my referees were very fitting for this kind of field, so I think that helped a lot. I think it helped me get in, I'm pretty sure of it. So yeah, choose your referees wisely, and also choose referees who can actually attest to your qualities, who know you, who can say, yeah, I think that the student is going to do a great job at your university because they did a great job when I worked with them. So yeah, just choose the right referees. I think that is a very important part of your application. Be sure to actually ask your referees ahead of time if they are willing to give you references, because it's not only more polite to ask them sooner rather than later, but it also gives them more time to actually finish your references, to write good references, and you will have them ready once you apply, because the actual application process where admissions is looking at your application only starts once your references are uploaded. The transcript you need to apply is just something you can directly get from your university. I could just download it. It doesn't need a signature, it just needs to be in English and to have a grade average on it, so it's really not a big deal. If you're an English native speaker or you've done your undergraduate degree in English, you won't need an English certificate. However, if that's not the case, you will need to do an official English assessment. I did both the CAE and the IELTS exams, and I got a short story about why I actually did both. So I know that you normally say this after you've told the story, but the moral here is always check if the university you apply into is actually accepting the certificate you provide them. Imperial, for example, accepted my CAE certificate from 2015, whereas King's and UCL said, no, we want a certificate that is no older than 2 years at the start of your studies. So as this was 1.5 months before I was planning to apply, I had to figure out how I would get an English certificate in this time. So I did my IELTS exam 2 weeks later, and if you are in the hurry like me, I would really recommend doing the IELTS because it just takes 13 days for them to give you results, whereas the CAE takes about a month or so, remember. So if you're in a hurry, choose IELTS. I know it's expensive as well, which kind of annoyed me, but you know, there's no way around this, so had to do it. Last but not least, we got the dreaded personal statement. I really didn't know how to write a personal statement, and I really didn't know what made it good and what made it stand out. So I did watch a lot of videos on it, I did read a lot of examples, and I will link all of this down below, everything that helped me write it. But I'm still going to tell you about my writing process. So first I just roughly listed what I have done so far, like internships, extracurricular courses and stuff. So I did one on medicinal chemistry that also focused on drug discovery, so again fit the degree and course I wanted to apply to. So, you know, it all comes together in the end. I also mentioned my work as a scientific writer and what I preferably wrote about there. The biggest paragraph was on my undergraduate studies and my bachelor's thesis. I really tried to elaborate how I developed as a scientist and what research experience I gained from this, what I'd learned, how to deal with failure and stuff, because that's a big part when you're doing scientific research. Nothing will go according to plan, nothing. So yeah, I just talked about how I evolved into a more critically thinking scientist. To further show them why I wanted to do this degree at this specific university, I talked about the research of the university and department I was interested in, and even talked about specific papers that I found really good. So I just showed them what parts of their research I was interested in and where I could see myself contributing to it. Some people actually told me that they find it a bit risky to be so specific, but you know, it worked for me, so I rated a 10 out of 10. I would recommend it, definitely. So I then just briefly touched on what I wanted to do after my master's degree, so that I wanted to do a PhD, after that probably a postdoc, and go into pharmaceutical research. I also mentioned some personal motivations why I wanted to go into this field, so don't be shy, just use them if they're actually valid. Another thing that admissions apparently doesn't like is if you just put out statements like I am a team player and then don't follow it up with an actual example why you think you are and how you have developed into a team player. So be sure always to explain why you think you possess this certain quality. Since we're on the topic of what admissions doesn't like, I've read a lot of times that they really hate it if you start your personal statement with I have always wanted to be XY. Yeah, they don't like it, even if it's true. Just too cheesy. Nope. One thing that I actually did do is tie everything together with a common theme. So I was and am still very interested in enzyme inhibition, small molecule drug discovery, and synthesis of inhibitors. So I mentioned this throughout my personal statement. I mentioned it when I was writing about my extracurricular courses, because there was actually a part where I had to design a new inhibitor, synthesizing I can't say synthesizing. I mentioned it in the paragraph on my bachelor's thesis, as I was actually synthesizing an enzyme acceptor substrate there for enzymatic assays, so that tied into this whole theme. And the papers I mentioned were also on enzyme inhibition. So you see, it's all like a big puzzle. Sometimes in the course information there will actually be questions that the university wants you to answer in your personal statement, so these can actually serve as guidelines for you as well. Very handy. So after you finally applied, you've made it, yay! Now comes the fun part. Waiting. Yay. So universities can take quite a long time to get back at you with a decision, which is a bit annoying, but you know. So I will tell you a bit about my timeline. I applied to the universities on the 13th of December 2019. I then got my offer from King's on the 13th of January 2020, got my offer from UCL on the 13th of February 2020. I then had an interview with Imperial on the 16th of March and got the offer on the 2nd of April. So you can see there that I waited up to 4 months for a decision. In the first month I did check my status daily, or more than once a day. But yeah, that's just another reason why you should start planning early and then apply early. One thing that you really shouldn't forget about during the stressful time of applying though is your mental health. I know that I sound a bit like these YouTubers that wanted you to subscribe to BetterHelp, but I'm being serious. There's a lot of stuff that you have to do during this time. Keeping your grades up, applying to internships, doing extracurriculars, and that's all before actually applying to these universities. I was seriously stressed out and probably even almost burned out at some point. It was just a lot of stuff that I had to do. There was one semester in which I did 14 exams and 4 lab courses, which resulted in me getting migraines, which is not very pleasant. If you ever had a migraine, you can understand. It's not fun. So it's really important to actually take breaks throughout, because you won't be productive if you're constantly tired and you're having a headache. It just won't do you any good. I know there are sacrifices to make and you have to be willing to make these sacrifices, and not everyone will understand them. I can't even remember how many times I have been asked why I care so much about my grades. I know it's annoying, and even close members of my family tried to talk me out of this whole thing, which I'm glad they did not succeed in, because I'm very happy that I'm now going to these universities. But you know, you just have to let the people talk. But yeah, if you're actually struggling with your mental health during this time, be sure to reach out to someone, your family or a friend, or you can even talk to me if you want to. I'm a very good listener. I'm not sure if I'm that good at giving advice, but I have ears, I can listen. So DM me on Instagram or something if you actually have the need to talk to someone. I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. Quarantine got me locked in. So I think I'll actually stop rambling now, because this has been going on for quite a while now. I hope that I could help some of you with this information and with sharing my experience. If you got any questions, ask right away and I'll try to answer them. I'm thinking of doing more of this kind of content in the future, especially now that I'm moving to London. I think this would be quite interesting. If you got any video requests about personal statement or thesis stuff or anything, be sure to leave it in the comments below. Otherwise, if you would like to see more of my face, be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.
Oh my baby, got me staring at you. So I'm crazy. Won't you bend that back for me? We won't stop, got your feet both locked. You get to fly with me.